Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the RSTS Express Review Series. This one's going to be my favorite wrestling show of all time, Dreamslam I, All Japan Women's Dreamslam I. This is an all-women's show, and it's friggin' ridiculous. It's friggin' the most epic of epics. This show, in my mind, will never be topped, ever. There's 8 4-star matches on here, 2 of which Dave Meltzer gave 5 stars. The show won 1993 Wrestling Observer Show of the Year. The show is highly regarded by anybody who's seen it. I think the only person to review on YouTube is Big Rat 310. But let's do a little history first. I don't want to talk a ton about the show, honestly, or go through the matches itself, because the matches are going to speak for themselves. But I do want to talk about the show a little bit, and I do want to say the story of how I saw the show and everything like that. Back when I first really started getting into like Japanese wrestling, I'd go on YouTube and I'd watch Japanese wrestling matches, and I found Kobashi and Akiyama from No Departure 2004, and that's been my favorite match for God only knows how long. So ever since I saw it, that was my favorite match. And going on and looking up greatest shows of all time, I came across a video by True Slayer. Now, I'm sure everybody on here at least knows the name True Slayer if they're watching this video. And he was the first guy I found, and really the only guy I really watched for the first 3 years of being on YouTube looking up stuff. He was the only guy's opinion that I really that I held in high regard, and mostly it was because of this. I enjoyed listening to him talk, because he seems like a very knowledgeable guy, and he did a YouTube video of the top 5 greatest shows of all time. WrestleMania 17 was 5th, Great American Bash 89 was 4th, Ted Petty 2004 was 3rd, Super J Cup 94 was 2nd, and Dreamslam 1 was 1st. Now at that time I had just gotten the Ted Petty, and I loved it, and I had seen WrestleMania 17, and that was my favorite WWE show ever. I hadn't seen Great American Bash yet, but I ended up watching that, and that's stellar as well. I'm not a huge fan of Super J Cup 94, honestly. I think J Crown 96 is superior to that, but Dreamslam 1, he was the first person that mentioned Dreamslam 1. He was the first person that I'd heard of Dreamslam 1 from that. Right after that, I went on Ring Mistress's channel and watched the matches. That's where he said to go to, and I watched a couple of matches, and then ordered the show. And I watched the show the first time like 5 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was kind of early in my wrestling watching days, and I popped it in at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was just tired, just ready to go to bed, just kind of gonna put it on and fall asleep. I stayed up for the next 5 hours watching that, just watching it in whole. Didn't fall asleep, anything. I was captivated by just the brilliance of ring action and just everything that was going on in the ring. I thought, at that moment, I thought, it was the greatest show I've ever seen. I called my friend and told him about it. I was like, there's 8 4-star matches on it. I actually have my original review. I actually wrote down a review of the show, which I'll post up to show you my thoughts then and my thoughts now. It's not as high as it was then, but it's still the best show that I've ever seen. It's still the best show I think I'll ever see, honestly. I don't think that we're ever going to see a show with 8 4-star matches. Maybe I'm a little bit high on some of this. Maybe I'm a little bit low on some of this, because, a couple of these matches I had really high and now they've dropped. But I don't want to really do a rundown of the card. Let's just say this. The show is, in my opinion, the greatest show of all time, but it could have been so much better. The problem with the show was, All Japan Women's Wrestling brought in a whole bunch of other promotions like LLPW and I think FMW or whatever it was. I'm not a huge Joshi knowledgeist, so that's part of the reason I don't want to run that card. I'm sure I'll butcher all their names, but they brought them together. Some of these people are working for the first time, so they went a little fast. They tried to do everything too soon. There were a lot of botches on this card. There were a lot of botches in the matches. Even the 4-star matches on here, even there's 10 matches, 8 of them are 4 stars. Even a couple of those had some pretty big botches in them. And I think without the botches, a lot of these matches could have been even more superior than what they are now. Let's see, 4 stars, 2 stars, 3 3/4, 4 stars, 4 stars, 4.5, 4 stars, 4 stars, 4 3/4, 4 stars. That's what I gave the show, current day today. And about half those 4-star matches could have been like 4 and 4, 4.5, if there wouldn't have been so many mess ups. So to say this is the greatest show of all time, but it could have been even better, is almost even an understatement. This show could have been, just the one show that you just bring with you and just watch everywhere, because it would have had everything. I mean, there were matches for everything. There was your blood feuds, your highly athletic contests, your strong style stiff contests, your high flying contests, your submission contest. There was a match on the show for everyone, and they really evenly spread it out, and it felt like a big deal. There's 16,000 people there. The crowd for Japan crowd was hot all night. You can tell a lot of people are really looking to the show. I mean, just a fantastic night of wrestling, and just something for everybody. I mean, the only reason someone could watch this show and say they didn't like it was if they were, a wrestling, realist, like they liked, no botches. If they were that much of a sham for botches. Like, I'm trying to think of the word for a fan of that magnitude, but if they were that, or if they don't like women's wrestling for whatever reason, that they just think that all women's wrestling is complete shit, and they, because of WWE's basically told us that, but I mean, this is something that needs to be seen by everybody, because this is something that really could, I mean, it really pisses me off that, American women cannot do this, and we can't. I mean, you look at the Diva division, you look at the Knockout division, and yeah, they put on, good matches from time to time, mostly the knockouts, but they don't ever reach a level of, 4 stars very often, unless their names are, Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong, or Del Rey versus Kong, or, Del Rey versus one of the Japanese women coming over. I mean, there's not a ton of great women's wrestling anymore. Even in Japan now, I mean, you have Blue Ribbon, which is probably the best in, match quality wise nowadays, but it doesn't live up to what All Japan Women's used to be. All Japan Women's probably used to be, if not the best, the second best promotion behind All Japan Men's. I mean, honestly, and they were an all women's promotion, and they put on, just superior cards to what we're used to seeing today. And this card is more superior than any men's card I've seen. It's really, to me, it's untouchable. Dave Meltzer gave this show 2 5-star matches. I mean, I gave Hakoda versus Kandor, I gave 4 3/4. It's so close to 5, it's not even funny. I almost thought about giving it 5. And I know, there are people that love the finish and hate the finish of the match, and I'm one of them that just doesn't like it. I just feel like something bigger should have been hit. A simple forearm punch should not take someone out of a match at that magnitude. I mean, I give some people, it's an epic ending, it's really great. It kind of deflating, honestly. And then the tag match was like 15 or 16 minutes long. It was don't get me wrong, it's 5 double stomps in a row. I mean, ton of big moves. It was probably the smoothest match on the whole card. There were no botches. That's probably why it was so good, because I'm sure Meltzer was sitting there watching the show and be like, look at this, all these botches are taking down these matches from 4 and 4, 4.5 to 4 stars. This match had none. Let's just give it 5. I think it's probably the weakest 5-star match he's given that I've seen. That I'm just like, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really enjoy Joe vs Punk 2 as well, but it's still a great match. It just, the problem with these matches is either they botched too many moves to really go ahead of 4 stars, or they were too short. There were a couple of matches that were really good, but they were just really short. But like I said, this card is something for everybody. It's an all-women's show, so I mean, if I told anybody to watch, one show, if you wanted to try out women's wrestling, this would be the show to get, because if you watch this show and don't enjoy what you're seeing and don't enjoy what you're watching, then you shouldn't be watching women's wrestling, because women's wrestling is never going to please you. If you cannot come away from this show satisfied and at least thinking it was a great show, then you have no business watching women's wrestling, because you're not a fan of women's wrestling. Then you can't possibly be a fan, of women's wrestling, if you can tell me that the show was terrible, or the show's complete shit, or you didn't like it, because For as many, there were quite a few botches, but for as many of that, they made up for it just with sheer willpower. They just went quick with everything. There was no dull points to really any match at all. There was no slow points. I was never bored with any of the matches. Like I said, first time I watched it like 2 in the morning. Usually I put on wrestling to go to bed. This show kept me up until like 7 or 8 in the morning, and then afterwards I was just floored. I was like, wow. I've witnessed history, and I say the WXW 60 Karat Gold 2008 is probably my favorite indie show. This is my favorite show ever, period. And I'm not a huge fan of Japanese wrestling as much anymore because I like commentary from matches. I like hearing what the commentators say. This match is all obviously Japanese commentary, but still I still enjoyed watching to this day, and I still think that we're never going to get a show with 8 4-star matches on it just ever again. I don't think anything could possibly top this. I told all my friends, anybody that I've actually had see this show, they may not agree that there's 8 4-star matches, but they say, in ring quality, probably nothing will top it. I know I have a friend that's really huge on storyline and stuff, and he didn't like it as much. He doesn't think it's the greatest show ever. He thinks, actually, he told me the other day, Death Force Honor 8 was his favorite show because of storyline progression, and just it had a little bit of everything. I believe this show had a little bit of everything, and I think this show had a good story to it too. I mean, this was all Japan versus everybody else, and it was kind of basically like a tournament of sorts between all the different companies, and of course Hakoda and Kanori had a great story too, and just the blade job on that was just ridiculous. I think I'm pretty sure the guy got released after he bladed her that bad. She's now Kensuke Sasuke's wife, or Kensuke Sasake's wife. I don't know why I butchered his name. See, I can't even butcher Japan names all the time. But great show. I'm sure I'm not saying enough about it, but I mean, if you watch this show and it doesn't floor you, and it doesn't go on to your top 10 shows of all time at least, then you're either just not a fan of Japanese wrestling, or you're just not a fan of wrestling, or you're just not a fan of women's wrestling. Because this show, I think I should at least be seen by everybody, and I really think if everybody saw the show, everybody would think the show is great. I mean, it's honestly a very, everything is from very good to great. The worst match on it is 2 stars. If they cancel out the second and third match on the card, every match would be 4 stars. If you just took 8 match card, how most cards are in America, if you just took this and made it 8 matches, and just took the 8 best matches, every match would be 4 stars. Think about that. Every single one of them would touch the 4-star mark. I'm surprised not as more people haven't seen this, because it really is the epitome of a great all-around wrestling show. The best all-around wrestling show. The best wrestling show, period. The best wrestling show of our lives. The best wrestling show in existence. The best wrestling show we're ever going to see. I can undoubtedly say that to myself and agree with myself. You may not agree with it, but you have to give it a chance. There's a guy's channel here called Butte, 2 O's, 3 A's. Look him up. Go to his uploads. Type in AJW. The 10 matches that come up for Dreamslam 1. Watch it. Watch it. At least watch the first match. If you don't like the first match, then you're probably not gonna like the rest of the show. If you like the first match, watch the entire show. Give me your feedback on this channel. Subscribe, comment, criticize. Tell me whatever you want. Tell me why the show sucks. Tell me why the show is awesome. Tell me why the show rocks your socks off. Tell me your opinions on this show, because in my opinion, this show will never be beaten. This show is the king of wrestling shows. It's the best, queen, I guess. It's the best wrestling show that I'm ever going to see, and probably that anybody's ever going to see, in my personal opinion. But that's all for me. I want to get the review out. Hopefully I'll review Dreamslam 2 and Big Egg Universe from All Japan Women's next. Peace, guys.